Sorry.
Whoa.
Just making
All
sure
right.
we're good.
We
All right, we are
live.
live. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a very live, very unfiltered, good news, bad news, LCI Roundtable. We have a group of wonderful folks here today, but this is out of the norm. This is something that we're not doing on a regular basis. New and wonderful things have happened, and we're going to talk about them. You're going to hear about them here in just a second, but we can't go on without recognizing that tomorrow is Thanksgiving. And as my child says, it's the day of giving thanks. And I said, yeah, that's pretty obvious. And so I want to make sure we take a moment here and give thanks for the things that happened this year or the things that are in our lives. So I want to go around the table here, and I'll first start with Madam Carrie Baldwin. Carrie, what are you most thankful for this year?
Well, this year is the year that my dad died. So I'm actually thankful for God's providence and provision throughout that unfortunate heartbreak.
You saved it just at the end there.
You're
Because
welcome.
the way you set that up was a little like,
like
I'm turn into a counseling session. Yeah.
Thankful my dad died.
Yeah. No. Oh boy. Anyway, well, thank you very much, Carrie. Acting for us as our tech du jour, we've got Jakob Vinograd, all the way from an undisclosed location in York, Pennsylvania. Jacob, what are you thankful for this year?
Well, I'm thankful that hey, we're all here tonight and we're doing a live stream because this is a lot of fun. I am thankful for the past year with Libertarian Christian Institute after we launched the Christians for Liberty Network. It's been a lot of fun being part of this team of Christians who, believe in the importance of talking about the gospel and the kingdom of God and what that means for how we view the state. And I'm thankful for the fact that my family hasn't had any major health scares because 2 years previous to this past year, I had my dad in the hospital with COVID and my wife in the hospital with a bunch of issues. So thankful for a year of good health and good collaboration with all you fine gentlemen plus Carrie.
Thank you for not leading off with for whenever I was in the hospital with COVID, or my dad was in the hospital with COVID. So yeah.
He rubs it in and then says plus Carrie.
Yeah,
Plus
Carrie.
Norm, what are you most thankful for here, sir?
There's so many things that we could talk about, of course, but I think I have to hand it to my team here at LCI. We have done some tremendously cool things over the last year that I'm really proud of, and it really wouldn't be possible without all them. So the dream moves on, and we are going to keep going. So while I'm so thankful for the team, I'm also thankful to all the folks who partner with us to make it happen. In so many respects, everybody who supports LCI, whoever watches a video, whoever reads an article, shares it, and whoever especially donates to the cause is part of the team in so many respects. We want to honor that. So I'm thankful for everybody and your support, whether you're just watching today or you've given $5 or a cajillion dollars. Okay, well, we don't have any of those yet, but if you want to, you can. We're thankful for everybody's support. This is it's a tremendous feeling to do that. Thank you.
If you didn't notice, Norman is visiting us from the backdrop of every comedy club in the country. So
I have a set right after this.
Yeah. Okay, good. Yes.
Yeah.
A clean 5. All right, good. All right. And of course, we have our spice du jour, our token Spanish guy down there in the bottom right, who is also from Tejas, Mr. Sepulveda. Aaron, what are you most thankful for this year?
I know. It's because he hasn't lost his hair yet, like Norman. That's what he's thankful.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
That's it. No,
he's coming in from a very bad Wi-Fi connection, so we'll wait until his Wi-Fi connection gets better.
Maybe
we hear from him.
Wait.
And there we go. All right. So, Aaron, what are you most thankful for? Go ahead.
We got you, man.
Oof. The opportunity to serve Christ through the Libertarian Christian Institute.
Wow, short and sweet. Well, while I'm very thankful for all of you and for the answers you've given, the correct answer was hazelnut spread. Hazelnut spread.
You all have been docked 5 points, and now for round 2.
All right. Well, let's get to the topic that we were all here to speak about. And frankly, I think libertarians, honestly, guys, have kind of had a moment of, is it happening? Is the world, excuse me, waking up? Are we done with the era of big government? Is this a sign of the times? Because as we as libertarians have heard for years and years and years, a libertarian candidate could never be elected into a high level office. They're just too extreme. It could never work. Yet all the while, all we've seen is socialists and big government types be elected over and over again. But now we have a clear and distinct winner in the great country of Argentina. President Javier Milei was voted in this week, and we wanted to take a moment during this Thanksgiving to say, hey, thanks God for that really strange turn of events, but also, yay, Javier. So let's all give him a big round of applause for winning that election.
Golf clap.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
It is a very interesting win, and we'll get to some clips of Javier here in a second. But I kind of wanted to just get your basic reaction to that. I mean, just think of it. Again, we've all heard that a libertarian could never win a high office, but Norman, here we are.
It is pretty amazing when you think about it. Those of us who kind of came of age, if you will, as libertarians in the Ron Paul era.
Yeah.
Especially if you kind of came in before that happened, like most of us in this room, at least, observed it happening, and then observed the lack of a win, and twice in a row, and so on. And then we observed 8 years of Obama, and then 4 years of Trump, and now 4 years of Biden. You kind of have to be like, man, what are we doing? This is a fascinating turn of events than to see somebody as bombastic and interesting as Javier Milei win the highest office in the land in Argentina. And how he did it is almost, it just seems implausible from its face, but I think there's a lot to be learned from it and a lot of interesting things to kind of cover as in this regard. So here's to a weird turn of events, and let's go through it.
Carrie, what was your first reaction whenever you heard that Javier, a libertarian and an economist, no doubt, won the presidential election?
Well, an anarchist for that matter. I was really excited. I was really excited when I first heard about his candidacy. Although when I first heard about his candidacy, I was like, he's never gonna win.
You've been
that's really cool.
By the Lyme virus. Yeah.
But no, I was very excited. For a hot minute there, I thought, I wonder how much land is in Argentina.
Yeah.
But
and now you're really researching it. I mean, living in New Mexico, I mean, come on, it's a pretty harsh state.
I do think it's interesting because the Latin American states seem to have been exploring libertarianism for the past several years, and in some ways, they're maybe in a better spot than we were back in 2008 with Ron Paul, because they've been living with socialism for so long. So, somebody else pointed out that Argentina has had triple-digit inflation. I think maybe Aaron can correct me on that. But
a year.
Yeah, they've been living under socialism, like hellish socialism for a long time. So in one sense, I'm like, great, these ideas are resonating. On the other hand, I'm like, does America have to get to triple digit inflation before people finally start saying, hey, maybe we need a Ron Paul or a Javier Milei or whatnot? But no, I'm very excited. I'm very excited about the idea, even to the naysayers who thinks he's a CIA plant. If it took the CIA to have a market anarchist libertarian message in order to win, I still call that a win.
Yeah. That is a pretty interesting down the rabbit hole, 3 levels deep.
Yes.
But Aaron, you were the one who really made us aware of Javier Milei's presidential run. So you've been following it probably the longest here and really been cheering him on, primarily because you understand what he's saying.
Somewhat.
Somewhat. Okay.
No,
He does
just so you guys
very
know.
fast. He's very, very fast speaker. So yeah.
There you go. I kind of saw it coming with glee and amazement. Although I didn't think that the Peronist, which will be the other side, if you want to see it, left-wing establishment, that will be the better description. When Milei says lefties, he means left-wing establishment. Imagine the Democratic, Democratic National Convention or something like that. It will be kind of like that. That was the part where, that's why I never said, like, yeah, he's going to win, because it's very difficult to win in that context, right? In the context of Argentina, we call it Peronism. However, the reason why I was very positive about it is because the story for him, and this is something that we all going to have to learn. I mean, he has every single peculiar feature that would actually excite the masses, all the way from being like, he was almost going to be a professional goalie in soccer. He was a rock singer. He was on TV all the time. He's an excellent economist. I'm not just saying because I like him. He's a fantastic economist. Now, people don't think of him as an academic economist or a scholar because he's so strident, and the hair and all that kind of stuff. But his scholarship is legit. I can show you some. He was actually invited to an Austrian academic book in honor of Jesus Huerta de Soto. He's an expert on growth. That's how I learned from him. His big critique of Keynesianism in general was, these guys are confusing one market reality as if it was the entire economy. And that's not the case. And this is a big issue. Keynesians and in general, most states confuse how one market works with everything else. That's his insight, and he was pushing it over and over again because he's a pretty good economist. Like, this is what people need to understand. We're not talking about some crazy guy. He's crazy, that's true, but not just a crazy guy. A fantastic economist. And this is the key, and we're going to be discussing it over and over. What he saw, I don't know if he thought about it and he just kind of like intuitively responded to it. But what he did was, he said, I'm going to copy all of the rhetoric that right-wingers use against the left. I'm going to win all of those votes, and I'm going to implement libertarian policies. That's it. That's the entire strategy. I'm going to be as strident as possible. Let Trump look like a little teddy bear that never speaks and is quiet. That's the way Trump looks like next to.
Totally.
Literally, you guys can see him, right? Oh, okay. You guys saw how he was talking about the state, and I know Kerry enjoyed that video a lot. Doesn't it make that whenever we share it? Be careful with the language. It truly does make someone like Trump look like, this teddy bear that's quiet.
Honestly,
it does.
Actually, Jacob, I know we have a certain sequence that we're going to go through these things, but can you bring up clip number 3? Let's just go through that, because I think we need to really understand who this gentleman is. Not only is he a fantastic economist, possible goalie, but he's also got some pretty fantastic mutton chops. Not this one, number 3. Yes, that one here. Why don't you start there at the beginning? So go ahead. I apologize for any language that you may see or hear, but we're doing this in the name of academic revelation.
This is educational.
This is how you win elections. Electoral politics are different than regular politics. Let's be ready.
Al zurdo de mierda no le podés dar ni un milímetro.
¿Me podés definir zurdo de mierda? Que no
Todos
lo
los que,
entiendo.
digamos, los colectivistas, los que ponen, digamos, o sea, esa idea. A ver,
¿Por qué le pones de mierda, digamos?
Porque son una mierda. O sea,
vos mezclás...
no,
pero
es que si pensás, pero si pensás distinto te van a aniquilar. Ese es el punto. Es decir, vos al zurdo no le podés dar un milímetro, porque le das un milímetro y lo toma para destrozarte. Es decir, usa, digamos, o sea, vos no podés negociar con el zurdo. No se negocia. No se negocia con esa mierda, no se negocia porque te van a llevar puesto. Si tienen un golpeador que caga trompadas a la mujer,
all right.
digamos, si es de...
That is,
Got
that
a
is
little-
passion.
That
little
is
too far.
number one. Just keep it on the screen there. One, yes, that's the face of passion right there. But
By the
that's
way, guys,
also that also goes to show that, you know, even though somebody might look a little unhinged, as long as they are telling the truth about the matter and that people can gravitate towards that truth, you're not really going to harm yourself in terms of a national politics, because that's what people who are dealing with 143% in inflation in terrible economic situations, that's what they're yearning for, some sense of truth and no longer lies from their government. Okay, Jacob, you can take that down. I got to say, though, this is a purely refreshing thing to see and hear from somebody. But Norman, whenever you look at somebody like that, would you have pegged him as the kind of guy to say, yeah, I would allow him to be in charge of an entire country? Or, I mean, it just seems a little off here.
Well, for one thing, I don't really see him as desiring to be just in charge of an entire country. And that's kind of the difference between that and why this may work a little differently and better than what we quote unquote expect in American politics on some level. Because we have our expectation is that leaders will be, that we have this composed demeanor and so on, and that's good on some level, because we should, we have that kind of reminiscent of the British stiff upper lip sort of mentality at times. But when circumstances call for tight and bombastic rhetoric in order to make a dent in the predominant ideas of the day, I think that is also warranted.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with going on the attack in that instance. And so, that may not be the way I would say it per se, but I can appreciate what he's going for.
Yeah.
Why he's trying to say it in this way.
Kind of a drag out fight, bare knuckle boxing type of mentality that he's really just taken it to his political opponents. Because Aaron, if you look at this, there may be a portion of this that you might think, an economy really does not do well with somebody who is unstable. Economies like some sense of predictability and stability, but Argentina really hasn't been seeing that. What have they been going through historically that really makes them look at this guy and say, yeah, we need a real big governmental shift here?
Okay, to keep it simple, is Argentina before the 50s or so, it was considered the United States of the South. Everything that you can imagine about like a free country, lots of space, lots of freedom, great economy, so on and so forth. There was just U.S. in the north and Argentina in the south. That's how important Argentina was back in the days. And simple as it is, some type of, let's say, Keynesians started to take over the country. Very emotional, got to people through emotions, through the electorate through emotions. Started offering tons and tons and tons and tons and tons, and I'm kidding you not, guys, I'm not exaggerating, and tons of welfare programs. Actually, today, the welfare state is so wide that there are multiple programs, but they're designed to work with each other so as to make sure that people keep voting for the Peronists, like the establishment.
Yeah.
And they're specifically, I'm not talking about they were like, a bunch of random stuff and people qualify. No. They actually tell you, oh, you can qualify for this one, this one, this one, this one, and that one, that one, that one, that one. Oh, and by the way, many of those helps type of aid maxes out when you're 35, 36, and then they start giving you less because, there's something you need to get a job. But if you happen to be transsexual, then age limit doesn't apply. You can continue the rest of your life with those help. Those are those one among 1,000 to 2,000 different rules that they face in Argentina. Why? Because since the 50s or so, somewhere around there, they got to the electorate through very emotional, and then on top of that, offering tons of help from the government. And therefore, there was always inflation. I tend to make the jokes that, for example, do you guys remember when Russia was having a collapse in its currency right after the war started?
Right.
We need to make jokes like, okay, for Westerners, that is the consequence of war, but for Argentinians, that's a Wednesday.
Wow.
The economies collapse, the currency devaluates every 5 seconds. When you go there, for example, the dollar's in super high demand. Everyone saves in dollars, including politicians that make rules against dollars. I'm kidding you not. They save in dollars, although they write down rules against dollars. So they have this super complicated
Interesting.
exchange rate program that it has about 27 different exchange rates. If you
Yeah.
export corn, you get certain exchange rate. If you export, let's say, soybeans, you get a different exchange rate and maybe a different tax, because they have tariffs against imports and tariffs against exports that they think they should stay in Argentina. The economy is almost completely closed, except for maybe tourism.
I was about to say that's going to be terribly confusing, and it doesn't allow for almost anybody to really work effectively or efficiently in a way. And I'm glad that you brought up the idea of dollarization and Milei's openness to that, because that's something that he spoke to. This was actually a great interview. Go to clip number 2, Jacob, because this was something that he really promised on his campaign trail and really showed that he is somebody who is very friendly to the West and to the dollar. Go ahead and play that.
I think there's a previous discussion about dollarization. Actually, strictly speaking, is to get rid of the central bank.
Look at those
Dollarization is an instrumental issue at the end of the day. There are 4 argumentative axes. One has to do with a moral issue, which is that stealing is wrong, and seigniorage is nothing more or less than a swindle by politicians against good people. Therefore, let's say if we consider that stealing is wrong, one of the greatest thieves in the history of mankind is the central bank. The second point has to do with a technical issue, because in the Argentine case, it is more evident when a product has no demand, its price is 0. So if the local currency has no demand and its price should be 0, the equilibrium real balances are 0. Whatever amount of money a central bank wishes to impose, the counterpoint is that the price level is infinite. Demand and its price should be 0. Equilibrium real balances are 0. Whatever amount of money a central bank wants to impose, the flip side is that the price level has infinity. So, in other words, it is a naturally inflationary economy. Then there are instrumental issues related with the different models of dollarization. There is probably the most iconic proposal, which is the proposal of Emilio Ocampo and Nicholas Kaczynowski, and we have different versions to dollarize. So it's not a technical problem. There's also a political dimension that has to do with
Jacob,
the
I
fact
think
that
that's good for right
Argentine
there.
politicians.
I find this fascinating because, again, you've got an economist here who is engaging in kind of real thinky type of things and making some wild claims about central banks and dollarization that a lot of people may not be able to follow right away. But when you're thinking about it, he's just talking about something completely different that folks don't go ahead.
And he always starts saying, by the way, there's a moral problem. That's why I'm addressing it. Now, this is the technical issue.
Yeah.
Every single time he says, it's not just that libertarianism is efficient, it is that it's moral.
Yeah.
We have the moral superiority and we have the technical superiority.
Something
There's no way he was gonna lose.
That's something that Kerry, you talk about a lot when it comes to libertarianism and the moral value of libertarianism. Hearing a politician not only speak on the substance of politics, but the morality of politics. I mean, that's huge.
Right. Well, yes, because when you start talking about these things like, the central bank, which is so disconnected from the little person on the ground, the guy who's trying to buy his tacos on Tuesday, is so disconnected from that you don't understand how what they are doing is actually theft against you,
Yeah.
right? You don't make that connection, but somebody needs to make that connection.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, and we experience this here in New Mexico, we're one of the poorest states in the union, but our population doesn't have basic financial literacy. It doesn't understand economics. It doesn't understand these basic things where if they understood it, they would see this for the robbery that it is, right?
Yeah. Complexity and vagueness really is the standard bearer to statism, and they want the people ignorant of those kinds of things.
Right. Well, and the other part of that too is that they accuse those of us who are free market capitalist as being the immoral ones, right? The charge of greediness and so forth. And it's like, no, guys.
Yeah. Right.
The guys who are taking your money,
who don't want to steal your stuff and want you to be happy,
or creating the economic environment that makes it difficult for people to provide jobs for you.
Yeah.
Or in our case, we have Walmart's shutting down left and right over here in poor neighborhoods, or dollar stores shutting down left or right in poor neighborhoods because of rampant theft. And it's like, the conditions that are being created by the state are incentivizing people to steal because they can't afford to provide for themselves. And that incentive to steal causes those businesses to shut down so that the poor don't have a place to buy from to begin with. Like, that's a huge moral hazard.
That really is astounding to hear, even in the United States, because frankly, the joke here in Pennsylvania is I fell down an abandoned coal mine and there was a Dollar General there.
Yeah, they're shutting down here.
Really?
Yes, because of rampant theft. In our case, our governor has a catch and release program where if you're a violent criminal, you can go back out on the streets, my friend.
Isn't this the same governor who talked about what was her stick about taking the guns from people?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And that's still a thing.
Wow. Okay.
Yes. I find at least we had some Twitter spaces along with it that Aaron hosted on Sunday night after the results were in, and we were talking about this with a number of our Latino friends and folks who are paying attention on the LCI Latino page. And if you are of that, if you're interested in that, you should check it out. A lot of interesting stuff is going on there. We were talking on the Twitter spaces, and I'm learning all this stuff that certain things that I hadn't heard, some things I knew, listening to Bob Murphy talk. We had him on for a bit. And over the course of the last couple of days, it occurs to me that there are similar kinds of rhetorical things that even libertarians could learn from and employ in a crusade now to overtake some of these insane folks off of the right and the left here over the next course of the next year.
Yeah.
Look at what people are complaining about, or what people are concerned really about. It's not just complaining. There are some real concerns, economically especially, but also, of course, in the more culture space as well. But let's listen to what people are saying and combat it in a way that is not just, it's not just, blame the rich and you're done talking, which is what the left likes to do. It's like, oh, well, we just need to, people just need to pay their fair share and everything will be okay. And yet it's not right, nor will it even work.
Yeah.
And so, the things like, well, why is it so difficult these days for this generation to be able to buy a house? Why is it that education just continues to raise prices? And why is it that the price of goods and services just keeps going up? Why is it so difficult to start a business and figure out ways to exchange in value when it's like difficult to just live at times?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I can respect the fact that people are having difficulties because, like I have a young family myself, and it is difficult at times to try and figure it all out when you're not, going gangbusters with making millions off of the latest meme stock or something because you got
Yeah.
lucky. But the reality is that things like in the Fed, like trying to teach about why our currency is getting debased, understanding why it is that the zoning laws result in higher house prices. All of these things matter, and if we actually gets kind of in people's faces and in a nice way, but more strident about explaining these particular issues, maybe we'll have some effect because it's actually hurting people's pocketbooks in a different way than it was before. And so it's time to kind of get a little angry at least and explain this stuff and call a spade for a spade. Don't give these folks an inch, as Milei said. Like, call them out for what they did. Yeah. Like, don't treat them like that these people are, they're just that much deserving of our respect because they have an elected office. Like, okay, like I have very limited patience for such anymore.
Well, if we go back to whenever Trump was elected and the time that he started to gain a lot of traction with, quote unquote, blue collar workers, he started to show a little bit more passion and a little bit more dogmatism about foreign trade, saying, hey, these rundown cities are because our people have sold you out to China, to Mexico, to other foreign countries where all of that economy is going over there and you're stuck over here, working a really crappy job for a crappy wage, and we're not getting anywhere. And all of that trade deficit is going away. That's actually something. I'm not going to say it's exactly like what Milei is saying, but it's
not exactly true.
It's not exactly true.
But what it did is it appealed to something.
Right. And that is something that I think Milei is actually grabbing onto. And Jacob, if you want to bring up clip 1, it's kind of in the same vein here. Why don't you just take a look at this and you can see what I'm talking about here. Go ahead and play that.
The angles there. Our fundamental angles are free trade, peace, freedom, and aligning ourselves to the West, where our top references are the United States and Israel.
And what about China? It's one of the main trading partners.
It might be a business partner with the private sector. However, we do not make pacts with communists.
So what would you do? In other words, would you stop Argentina's relations with China?
I would not promote relations with communists, whether it's Cuba, Venezuela, North Korea, Nicaragua, or China.
In other words, for Venezuela, are you going to change the policy?
Obviously.
And what about Brazil? It's the country's most important trade partner. You've spoken harshly about Lula in the past. Can you have a closer relationship?
No.
What do you mean? You don't think so?
In fact, I believe that Mercosur must be eliminated because it is a defectuous customs union that harms good Argentines. In other words, it's basically a trade managed by states to favor a specific class of businessmen. So that doesn't promote trade. It destroys trade. That generates trade diversion.
This is very interesting, and I'll leave it up to anybody who wants to answer this, because we as libertarians would say, hey, we want as much free trade as possible, yet what Milei is saying, hey, listen, they may be business partners, but as it pertains to Argentina, oh, please help me, Lord. Anyway, as it pertains to us, we're not going to do the business as usual with communists, and calls them out China. Go ahead.
Okay, so he's drawing a distinction that people who are accustomed to government intervention in economics may not hear, right? But we hear it. He's saying if you want to do business with China, like if you're a business and you want to do business with China, you should do business with China. But we're not going to have these political agreements between us and communists because that creates an environment that is bad for, in this case, Argentinians, right? And we get that because we're saying, because the libertarian, free market position is get the government out of the economy, out of economics. It should be a free market because as soon as you get government intervention in the marketplace, you get all of this crazy, not just theft of the people, but you get all of the corruption that socialists even complain about.
Yeah.
Right. So what he's saying is very clear to me. It's you want to do business with these countries.
Yeah.
Great. we're not going to create these political pacts anymore.
Well, let me leave it then as an open question to the group as well. The idea then that businessmen can deal with them, but as for the country, we're not going to deal with communists. Could that be a winning message to Americans?
Absolutely. Let me explain to you. And it's not just the winning message, which you guys can see right away. Let's make a distinction between me as a president making an agreement with the Communist Party of China. It's very different than you individual want to buy something from a Chinese person. Those are miles away from being the same, and states tend to mix them as if it was the same thing. Yeah. Now, this is the other trick. I don't know if he did it on purpose, but it worked. He's very tough on China, just like Trump. He imitated a lot of things from Trump. And so when he was saying, I'm not going to do treaties with communists and so on and so forth. And then when he's pushed a little bit, he's telling us, oh, so you're going to impose tariffs against Chinese products.
Right,
And he says,
right.
No. He's like, no. That's private issue. People want to buy stuff from a Chinese person or, Brazilian person. That's what my administration is not going to do any business, any treaties with a bunch of communists, straight out. Now, if you think about it, all you needed to do to win the right-wing votes was to be tough on China. You don't have to impose tariffs on Chinese people. Do you see the big difference between one or the other?
No,
and
go ahead.
Get you the votes and the freedom at the same time.
Yeah. I think that's a very important message moving forward, because I've even heard in some circles Trump saying that, I don't know if the tariffs will work. The good news is we can take them off if we want to, but really the damage is done once they've been on. And, a lot of times once a tariff is on, it's hard to bring it back. But that message there just seems to be such a huge and simple thing to get across to people.
Tariffs, though, are kind of implicitly political deals, though. So when Milei says, I'm not making deals with China, that you kind of read between the lines, and that means tariffs, because the one this is how it works. Like when tariffs are imposed, that elicits a response from the government of whom you're imposing the tariff upon. So that is a discussion. It's just happening over news wires and policy impositions, that not just via a negotiation table. It sometimes is meant to try and push people into that table. But if you don't do that from the first place, you don't have to make the deal. Yeah. And so that's the irony to me about what Trump was trying to do. Is like, I think in some respects he thought he was appealing to certain parties, and he was probably getting some measure of support because of it. But it really wasn't. It's not actually as good for us as what Milei is trying to do. Yeah. Which is that he's like, we're not going to make a deal. We're not even going to go to the table. That's not the only thing we would be discussing. Would be things of other natures.
I love the fact that though he's bold enough to name the countries and name names. He's like, that guy over there, that guy's a dirty communist. I'm not going to work with him. I mean, I love to hear that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, and I think a major difference that I see between Milei and Trump is that, number one, the news reporter didn't shut down Milei when he started talking even about central banking and all of that, right? True. We have mainstream media who will shut a person down if they start saying the wrong
we're losing
thing.
the feed. I'm sorry. We've got to go. I apologize.
Yeah, exactly.
Commercial break coming.
But the other thing is that Milei knows his economics. Trump didn't. And on top of it, Austrian economic theory is based on the idea that you can deduce facts from reality. And as soon as you start talking about those principles, they become immediately obvious to people. Yeah. And that's something that Trump didn't have that ability to do.
Well, someone from the Pennsylvania Mises Caucus, and no, it was not me, asked this question, which actually kind of good time to bring it up because is what we're talking about right now. Like, did the people vote for Milei because the things he's talking about with the economy resonated with them, or they're just fed up and desperate? They're like, okay, this person's different than everyone else, so we're going to vote for him, or is it both? I mean, I kind of feel like maybe the one's leading to the other. People are desperate for someone who's saying something different, and so they're going to pay attention. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
No, it's like, seriously, like everything that you can imagine, every single reason that a person could vote for a libertarian is there. Every reason for which you would not vote for a libertarian, it's there.
Yeah.
The situation in Argentina is hell on earth for Argentina. This is a super interesting thing. If you go as a tourist, it's almost heaven. Super inexpensive, amazing places. It truly is like Paris. When you go to Buenos Aires, the nice areas, it's no different than the nice areas of Paris plus Spanish. Just people speak more
No
Spanish than
rude
usual. That's all.
Frenchman, just
Yeah,
Spanish.
and there's no Frenchman.
Yeah.
Imagine.
Yeah,
Buenos Aires. You can't get better than that. And they win more
Oh.
cups than what Guardians do. But that's a different story. It's amazing. If you go as vacation, the food, like I remember, like Dr. White and I were eating, and for $17 we got like this huge plate of like Argentinian barbecue. Just so you guys understand the big issue there is the food in Argentina is all of the barbecue from Texas plus Italian food. That's the typical meal you get in Argentina.
That sounds like a winning
At
combination.
ridiculous.
Jeez.
It
But
is.
are there
At
green,
ridiculous low
green
prices.
chili cheeseburgers?
That's the question.
They'll come up with something. I promise you. Like they
Carrie,
figure it
when
out.
you move
like, at
down
some
there,
point.
that's going to be your contribution.
That's
to,
right. I'm gonna be
Argentina.
like,
Oh, okay.
here's-
And they don't play football, but they play rugby, which is a little bit tougher. So they have an advantage on us. And I went to the national final, by the way, which was a lot of fun.
They're not
So,
the Pittsburgh
it's
Steelers. Okay,
just
listen. Well, I think here, especially in South America, we are getting a real juxtaposition of countries, of leadership, and of types of administrations that within the 21st century alone, you had a very rich country in the terms of Venezuela that voted in an avowed socialist and
Correct.
really wrecked the place. And now you're going to get a place that is already wrecked, but you're getting an avowed libertarian. And we're about to see what is going to happen there. And, if we can all go into our political crystal balls, say it's going to be some pretty good times for Argentina because we can read the economic tea leaves. But in the next 10 years, we're going to have a clear distinction between real political ideologies. This is something, though, that I think, and Jacob, bring up the last clip that we have up here. This is something that I think that all of us really would love to see just about any new politician come in and do. Go ahead and play it, please.
Ministerio de Turismo y Deporte, afuera. Ministerio de Cultura, afuera. Ministerio de Ambiente y Desarrollo Sostenible, afuera.
We need to start saying it together.
Ministerio de las Mujeres y Género y Diversidad, afuera.
Afuera!
Ministerio de Obras Públicas,
Afuera!
Aunque te
even if
resista.
they resist.
Ministerio de Ciencia y Tecnología e Innovación, algo bien del sector privado. Nada bueno salió del sector público. Afuera.
Afuera!
Ministerio de Trabajo, Empleo y Seguridad Social, afuera.
Afuera.
Ministerio de Educación, adoctrinamiento, afuera. Ministerio de Transporte, afuera. Ministerio de Salud, afuera. Ministerio de Desarrollo Social, afuera. ¿Cómo queda el Estado? Ministerio de Capital Humano, Ministerio de Infraestructura, Ministerio de Economía, Ministerio de Justicia, Ministerio de Seguridad, Ministerio de Defensa, Ministerio de Relaciones Exteriores y Ministerio del Interior. Se acabó el curro de la política. Ministerio
I think that's just wonderful. And you know what? It reminds me of a clip that I saw of Hugo Chavez whenever he was first voted in, standing in a Capitol, pointing at buildings and saying, "Hey, what's that over there? Oh, yeah, that's some private business." And he's saying, "Expropriate it."
Yeah.
And what's this over here? Expropriate it. He's just pointing and telling people. And now we have the libertarian going to all the ministries in the government saying, "Afuera." I love it.
And by the way,
we need to make LCI T-shirts that just
Say
have them
afuera.
going,
Yeah. I love it.
well,
Aaron,
we
you
will.
had to
Definitely.
say.
Great
I
idea.
was going to tell you that every single homeschooler that I know absolutely loves this guy going like afuera, afuera, and says, "Oh, Secretary of Education, doctrinaire. I forget how you call it. Brainwash.
Indoctrination.
Brainwash.
Indoctrination. Yeah.
Yeah.
Indoctrination. Afuera. And I just saw
Fuera, yeah.
every single
Oh, yeah.
homeschooler going, yeah. Because it is. And just so you guys know that every single teacher in Argentina voted against Milei, and he won 57% of the vote, breaking a record.
Wow.
That's huge. That's huge.
That's huge.
Looking at some kind of national politics.
With the entire education apparatus completely against him.
Yeah.
That's huge because oh my gosh, that's
Well,
huge.
What he's done just changes the entire conversation for libertarians going forward. And like, I know we don't, here at LCI, we don't make endorsements for political parties or candidates or anything like that. But just like in terms of like the Overton window, like I'll share this is the meme that people used to share about libertarians, right? I'll vote for a third party, and then it's like, well, if you do that, the Democrats will win and they'll take away your guns. It's like, okay, but now, if anyone shares that, you can just share this as a counter and be like, you know what? It's not, and it's not about the candidate or the party. It's just about like, you know what, these ideas, these concepts and stuff, they can resonate with people. It's also a little bit of a counter to the people who just think that, libertarianism is, everyone's heard it already and everyone's rejected our ideas. Like, no, there's a lot of people that just like, they haven't heard these ideas. And so it's on us to get out there in front of more people and make these arguments and to show people how, like, not every place is as bad as Argentina, but, as people continue to live in these, Keynesian socialist, economic realities, and as the dollar continues to get weaker here in the United States, things are going to get worse. And so that, while we're not happy about that, it is a similar opportunity, I think, on our part to start telling people, yeah, things are getting worse. Here's why, and here are the answers.
Let me just add on to that, because you had that question about, why did people vote for Milei? And in keeping with our libertarian principles and the idea that we are methodological individualists, right? We make choices for our own reasons, not because we're a hive mind. It is, we should not be fooled into thinking that everybody who, the 57% of people who voted for Milei did so because a light bulb went on about Mises's human action, right?
Right.
That's not the case. Now, maybe somebody, maybe there were people who picked up a book of Mises or Hayek or Rothbard or whomever because of Milei. But at the end of the day, people voted for him for a variety of reasons. And just because he's been voted in by people who are sick and tired of the status quo, and they know that the government is the problem, but they don't really understand why, they couldn't articulate it to you, that is all the more reason why we need to be explaining these things in simple terms for people so that they can start to see it. You don't want to just let this this energy fizzle out, right? There are reasons why people voted for Milei. It's not all, oh, we're all libertarians now, or we're all Austrians now. That just means we still have work to do. And there's still a good reason to invest in people like, like LCI, like Mises Institute, or other organizations that are trying to take these abstract or ethereal ideas from Mises and Hayek and so forth and bring them down to the common person.
Well, shameless plug for LCI. Speaking of, wrong button. Speaking of, reducing these concepts into simple answers to answer, questions people have, if you don't have this book. Yeah, if you don't have this book, because this is, listen, I don't think that our book is just a good explanation for the Christian reasons to be libertarian. It's also just a good way of explaining the basics of libertarianism to anyone who's interested. And a good example of what you were just talking about, Carrie, it's like, explaining this to the layman in a way that they can understand and relate to, and how it affects them. Because not everyone's going to read Human Action or Chaos Theory by Bob Murphy. Although on the flip side, the white pill is, hey, of that 57% that voted for him, how many thousands of people probably did decide to look into Mises and Rothbard and all that. So how many new libertarians have been created out of this? It's crazy to think about.
On TV, Milei has mentioned Rothbard on TV, national TV, Bob Murphy, Chaos Theory, which I'm proud to have said that I have promoted in Spanish before. He has actually and this is the one that got me, and Olivia sent it to me, and I was like, hey, how to get in my feelings. He actually got regular people to go buy a book from Hayek and then go to one of the meetings of Milei and go and ask Milei to sign it for them. Wow. This is what he has done to just regular people that have a job and they like to read afterwards. They're probably not politicized, but let's read Hayek. And I think the first time you guys started interacting about Milei, if I remember correctly, Carrie shared it in one of the groups, because I remember she said something like, look, he's mentioning Menger, Bombaverk, Hayek, and Mises, so this must be good. And I said, yeah, in large meetings trying to get votes and all that, he didn't stop himself and say, oh, and by the way, we do appreciate the great work of great economists such as Hayek, Bombaverk. And I'm like, that guy's mentioning Bombaverk. Like, this guy has to win. We're going to have to figure it out.
And he's doing it in such an unapologetic way, I think, is something that maybe some of the political leaders that we would want to see make some changes in this world could take a lesson or two from, or frankly, just ourselves when it comes to speaking about politics to certain people. There's so much that can be said about Javier Milei. We're not trying to be the fawning party, but I just think that this has just been such a wake-up call and a blast of fresh, cool air. We didn't even get to talk about his stances on religion, on his stances on his pro-life position. He has called out the Pope as a socialist in a country that is overwhelmingly Catholic. I mean,
90% Catholic.
It's a huge fact that he's able to be so strong on this stuff, and yet he gets 57% of the vote. So I would want to talk about a lot of his moral standings, but we don't have a whole lot of time. But Carrie, go ahead.
Let me just say this. When we talked about the fact that he's very bombastic, right? And he holds no bars, right? When you free yourself from that idea that you have to play nice with socialists, which are the enemy, when you free yourself from that idea that you have to do that, then you can talk about these. You're free to talk about these ideas and say, look, no, these are really bad. We don't want to be playing nice with these people.
Right.
These ideas we don't want to be playing nice with. It doesn't work. It kills people.
You need only 51% to win. You don't need 100% to win. So we can focus on the 51%. And that's what he did.
Yeah.
And he got 57.
And I think that there's a lot to be learned here. And I think there's, going to be in the future very interesting times for the Argentinian people and Argentina in general, and a lesson that I think a lot of people are going to learn. But let's put on our prediction caps. And I want to go through all of you, and I want to hear what you think the next 10 years are going to look like for Argentina. Thank you.
Argentine.
Yeah. And South America in general. So Aaron, what do you think is going to happen over the next 10 years?
Okay. If things work out the way that I think they will, for sure, he will be able to dollarize the economy. Maybe it's going to take about a year and a half or 2 years. Now, this is the key part, guys. And if some of you guys know that I went to Buenos Aires a week before the election, it would have been nice to stay, but I actually have a job. No. But it would have been amazing to stay an extra week. Right? I have some friends that did stay.
I've heard it's almost like heaven there.
For foreigners, it's just like amazing. It's just like you have to go. And seriously, by the way, before I forget, next year we're invited to go again. to the Bitcoin conference. It's the biggest one in Latin America. Huge conference, 8,000 people or so. And we're invited to go. It's an amazing place to go. It's an amazing conference. Everything's great. Literally, like, it was just a great trip. The other thing I was gonna say, since he's gonna be able to dollarize, this is the tricky part. The state, whether they're back in power or out of power, they won't be able. The peronist will not be able to finance all of the garbage that has been promoting their status ideas in Argentina and outside Argentina. Whatever happens in Argentina immediately affects the rest of Latin America. This is an insight that one of the members of the LCI told me, because she's married to an Argentinian. Ali Salinas, Ali Salinas told me, whatever happens in Argentina immediately starts spreading out to the rest of Latin America, because the Argentines have, since they have a lot of like their social skills are so high, their PR is so high, that they're very good about communicating ideas, the good ones and the bad ones. I tend to make the jokes with my Argentinian friends to say every terrible idea and every great idea always comes from Argentina. They don't have, there's nothing in the middle for them. It does not, the middle does not exist. That you get there like, there's middle, what is that? They don't talk. So if you actually get good ideas from there, they're gonna spread out real quickly. That's why things look like they're gonna. And dollarization, just so you guys understand, dollarization does not mean that people have to use dollars. All it means is that they're getting rid of their central bank or that of their local currency. For example, I'm kidding you not, guys. There's some countries in Europe that use the euro. They're not part of the European Union. In East Europe, I'm guessing it's Albania or something like that, but I'm not completely sure. And when we're discussing among economists what they did adopting the euro, which it was just people using the euro instead of the local currency. Oh, Croatia, I think, is in the same side. We still call it dollarization. Why? Because it means you adopt the currency of another that is produced in another country. But there's going to be absolute complete freedom. It's just that the reason why the dollar is such a big deal, guys, everyone has to understand, since it's the most popular currency in the world, Argentinians and some of you have told you, he has the highest moneyness in the world. So guess what? Whether we like it or not, we're going to have to use it, which we do in the United States, even more so. In Argentina or in Venezuela, as soon as something went wrong with their currency, Lebanon even, which is far, far away from the United States, they immediately go to the currency. That's what people want. Milei has to respect that. And we also going to have to respect that, whether we like it or not. There's going to be monetary freedom. And so my guess is that Bitcoin is going to grow even more than usual. Cryptocurrencies in general, even, for example, the stable coins that I tend to support, because they're very interesting projects. Maybe not for everybody, but they're interesting projects. So the next 10 years, libertarianism is going to spread out through Latin America, and this is amazing news. Like, that's why I have been happy, going crazy for the last 2 weeks, because I knew that this was going to make a big difference. It will, and I know the United States is going to make a big difference in the United States, because we're learning from them, and we have the capacity to change the United States because we can see it.
I think I'm glad that you brought that up, because the idea of dollarization is not just about dollars. It's decentralizing the currency to see more competition in that currency, which I think is going to be necessary for them to get out of a 143% inflation rate. That's just unsustainable whatsoever. So, Norman, where do you think that we're going? Is Argentina going to rule the world and with their blue colors, or is this going to fizzle out? What's going on?
Well, certainly not rule the world. I think the thing I would want to underscore is that I don't believe that the immediate result is going to be puppies and rainbows in Argentina. Like it or not, there is a rebuilding that needs to occur. And rebuilding comes with pain points, and we cannot ignore that. And so I think we also need to be ready as libertarians, observing what's going on, answering then the objections that, oh, well, look what's happening in Argentina now that they've gone through this dollarization. They just lost 20% of thus and such industry. That was so pivotal to, I mean, you can imagine any number of things where we will observe contractions or creative destruction, and people are going to criticize that. And I think we need to be ready to answer that in the same way that we would, for instance, say like, this is why, Somalia is not a great place. It's not because it's libertarianism, okay.
Right.
And why you can't say that certain industries, like the fact that they're doing really well, is an indictment of capitalism, because it's obvious that when you start looking into it, that it's cronyism. So, I mean, we understand how to go through the analyses and get to those answers, but we need to be paying attention to that, because it's not just going to be, up and up and up. There's going to be hurt. And I think we just need to be prepared for that and not be too surprised when it happens and have an answer.
I think there's a lot of economists who have talked about inflation and coming off of inflation. The immediate downside is once you stop the binge drunkenness of money printing, there's an immediate hangover.
Yes.
But the good news is you're sober and you can build your life back up again.
Yeah, and actually that's a really great point here, because when you start going through this dollarization process, it's not just immediately evident how everybody's going to exchange for dollars from a currency that's basically worth nothing and has an equilibrium value, as Milei said, of 0.
Yeah.
So I think that's it's going to be really tricky to understand what's going to happen here. And I know recognizing that a lot of people are kind of already approaching this, because the de facto savings in Argentina is in dollars, as Aaron
contracts.
Noted.
Large contracts.
So it's not going to be without pain, and somebody is probably going to get hurt, and it's not going to be happy for, it's the reality, folks. Right. It's
what every economy is going to go through who deals with this type of runaway inflation, no matter what, what you think about it.
But just so you guys know, guys, that the pain is going to be for those that depend from those minutes. Like what he's going to do, he's not even going to change much of the welfare state. Just so you guys know, because he says, I can't change it from one day to another. I have to take it slow, but I can shrink government spending on everything else, such as getting rid of like secretaries and departments or whatever.
Sure.
Because that's the big. Those are the ones that are going to suffer. Everyone else, everyone is saving in dollars. Switching to dollars is just a natural thing.
Yeah,
nobody's saving in pesos.
And I think it's going to be able to show us academically a country that has dealt in this so long. How long does it actually take for that hangover to subside? So,
well, we know from experience here in the United States how some of that works. And we've even noted, like in some of our own conversations, I know Aaron and I have talked about, sort of the blessing of high interest rates, and noting how this is actually now having real effects on inefficient and parasitic industries.
Right.
And we could go on and on and on about that. So there are things that in the interim that will be better policies to execute first before others. So like the most important one probably being removing of legal tender laws. All of those laws that are on the books that need to get, just destroyed and obliterated immediately. That's like first, job one. Getting rid of that, reining in spending, ejecting the parasites, and then allowing the economy to kind of keep building from there. Is like, that's, you want the safest route to getting to stability at that point. Like, keep doing it that way.
Keep doing it that way.
There's the joke about if you can press the big red button and delete the state, do you really want to?
The Rothbard button.
The Rothbard button.
Yeah.
Of course, I've always contended, and this is why Rod Long likes to call me the button pusher. I always say, well, do I have the button on the next day? And so on.
Right.
So I just thought I'm a button slammer. But nonetheless, the point still stands, is that we have to be judicious about this and realize that it's not just a button to utopia or something like that. It doesn't work. So let's be judicious. I think there's clearly things that can be done that are better than others in the right order, and then people will do what they will, and things will shake out to the better in the long run. But there will be short run pain.
Jacob, you delve into the heretical practice of necromancy and speaking to the dead. What does the next 10 years have for Argentine people?
Yes, yeah, I'll have to talk to my Jewish family, see if I can learn Kabbalah and all that. And
why are you revealing his D&D group?
Yeah, right.
guys, Milei is into those things. Just so you know that, right? Just FYI.
Okay, great.
He talks to his dog.
I've heard people mention that. I didn't know what anyway. Listen, I don't know what the future holds. I can say is what we should be doing, and we did mention this to some extent already. But I think we need to be doing everything we can here, those of us who are in the States, to support what's going on there in Argentina, support the growing and burgeoning liberty movement, connecting with those down there, helping to, whatever we can, whether it's, monetary support, whether it's just supporting what they're doing through connecting with them, networking with them, sending them resources and whatnot.
Sending them a bunch of yellow books.
Sending them a lot of these yellow books. Something I'm committing myself to do, which I think anyone who is inclined should try to do so as well. I recently got a Duolingo account, and I'm trying to learn Spanish because, it's like, this is a part of the world. It's not just Argentina. This is a part of the world that, there's a lot of libertarians here in America who love to do, we're good at talking about the ideas, but we don't know how to engage with other people because we just don't know their languages.
Yeah.
And even if a lot of the Spanish-speaking world does know English, how much better would it be to get our foot in the door to be able to talk with people and talk in their native language about these ideas? And so yeah, I can't say what's going to happen. I mean, I agree a lot with what Norman said, that we have to be careful about what in the short term, the creative destruction as the market comes in and takes over certain areas, and you have a lot of uncertainty, and there's going to be, yes, absolutely, the minute anything goes wrong, it's going to be blamed on the cutting of government programs and stuff, and so we have to be ready to call that out and give answers. But again, not just give answers from us over here in America. We need to make sure that we're the liberty movement here in the States and whatnot. We need to be doing everything we can to help support the liberty movement down there to continue to grow, to capitalize on this momentum, and to be the seeds of liberty and freedom that in the next decade hopefully can help sustain them through the probably a lot of the the unknown challenges that they're going to be facing over the next 10 years. It's not going to be perfect. But if something that I'll steal from Dave Smith, one of my favorite libertarian speakers, is that whatever strategy that we want to employ, and there's so many different strategies that libertarians talk about. People talk about obviously partisan politics and joining the Libertarian Party, or some people talk about building up alternative markets and Bitcoin and things like that. But all these strategies have their different pros and cons and merits, but all of these strategies are going to probably fail unless they get one thing, and they would all benefit from this one thing. We need more libertarians. That's just, we are going to struggle with whatever we do as a movement if we do not grow just the total number of libertarians here in this country and on this planet across the globe. So the more we can wake people up to these ideas and get them to shift the Overton window in that direction, the more all these different areas, Argentina, America, wherever you're at, the more we can help increase human flourishing and
bilingually with confidence say afuera.
Afuera. Yes.
Afuera.
And by the way, guys, please, to all of our listeners, if you can visit Argentina, they'll love to have you there, and you'll love the experience. Literally, just go to Buenos Aires, stay downtown. The place is amazing.
I would have never thought of it, but you know what? It's on my list now. Carrie, you're a girl. What do you think about this?
Man, I've been waiting, Matthew. I've been waiting. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
On the one hand, right, we understand that there has to be a market correction, right? So Norm's warnings are valid. On the other hand, this isn't a Ronald Reagan with good advisors, right? This is a guy that actually understands these economic principles himself. And on top of that, he values human life. And so I think if you have a best case scenario for the next 10 years being a beautiful example of productive human flourishing coming out of a socialist hellhole, this is it.
Yeah.
Because he gets it.
Yeah.
if for no other reason than he understands the principles and he already resonates with the people. So he's in the best position to make a difference. Obviously, he's going to be faced with the market corrections and the challenges from socialists who will point immediately to the short-term results and be like, see, this sucks. You don't want this. And, libertarians and free market economists are always looking forward, looking ahead to what will be the better outcome after you have to deal with the disease and that sort of thing. So I'm very hopeful about what happens in Argentina. I think it will also present some very serious challenges to other Latin American countries. They will have to face the realities that end up coming out of Argentina. And that will only further fuel the valid debate that libertarians have and that Austrian economists have with socialists and authoritarians across the globe. So
I think that's a beautiful way to put it at the end there, because at some point here, they're going to have to deal with the fact of Austrian economics and free markets within a country and how it can turn around a country.
Yeah. Every single time we've been asked, where has this been tried? Now we can be like, Argentina.
Hey, look over there. Yeah. I honestly have to say, I've been so impressed because, libertarians can be rather thinky and very, what's the word? Intellectual. Yeah, I guess you could say that. But it's also a very positive movement. It's a very positive political theory. On top of that, we as Christians are very positive because our hope lies in Christ and not in government. And I think that there's a lot that we as Christian libertarians can be hopeful for and thankful for as we go into this Thanksgiving season with a great win there in Argentina. And honestly, Argentina, I think, is automatically back on the map for so many people just because of this win. And I think there are good things ahead for it. So, Carrie, Jacob, Norman, Aaron, I appreciate you guys. Thank you all for spending a little bit of time with me here this evening, talking about a wonderful win. I hope each one of you have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
One quick thing before we hop off.
Yes.
We everyone needs to read this public service announcement. It is time to move your turkey to the fridge, and taxation is extortion.
Thank you very much.
Amen.
If you wake up in the morning and your bird is still frozen solid, call the Butterball hotline. So,
taxation will still be extortion if you
And
forget to put
taxation
the
will still
turkey
be
in the
extortion.
fridge.
That's right.
By the way, Norman, you were saying we need to ask people to help us translate some.
Oh
of the
yeah,
important stuff?
let's throw one other thing out there for our audience, and this is kind of a call for volunteers.
Oh yes,
we have been
Straight up.
thinking a lot about how we will be able to serve the Latino communities better. We started that with our Facebook page, LCI Latino, a while back, and that's been great. We're really thankful for Olivia and Aaron for kind of heading that up, and I think that what we're kind of getting on the verge of needing more active translations of both our classic articles and some of the stuff that's coming up. So if you are interested in being part of that, we'd love to involve you. We do think that like AI will be able to help do a lot of the translation stuff, making it mainly more like a proofreading. But if you're interested in thinking about how you could begin to get involved with us, we could definitely use the help there. And it would be really, really amazing if we could, over the course of the next year, make that a major initiative for us with great volunteers who are helping to kind of bring it forward. So if you're interested,
Twitter.
Yeah, check out and message our Twitter account, or go to libertarianchristians.com/contact, CONTACT, and go to the contact page, send us a message. We will do our best to respond quickly, and the sky's the limit there for your involvement. Whatever you are open to do, we can find you
people that can
something
help
to do.
us edit videos.
Yep.
We
That-
will.
If you speak
Yeah.
English, if you speak Spanish, and if you are willing to help us, we could definitely use your help in this endeavor. This is something
And
that I think
Portuguese.
is, and Portuguese.
And Portuguese, yeah.
That I
Right.
think would be beneficial to us all, because the libertarian message is going to just grow from here, especially in South America. And I think we need to take the whole wing of LCI in Spanish speaking documents and all kinds of stuff that we put out there in content, and just start branding it like LCI salsa or something like that. It'd be
I think
great.
we have it already. You guys haven't noticed yet.
LCI
Well,
salsa.
Matthew
right.
needs to learn Spanish and then be out on the streets trying to hand out faith-seeking freedom, like he did in New York and
Hola,
other events.
senor.
Hey,
Donde
next
es el
year, if we
baño?
go to Buenos Aires, we're invited to the Bitcoin conference. We literally can go ahead and do it. No problem.
That's fantastic. That's wonderful. Well, guys, thanks again for being here with me today. We're way past our time, but it was a discussion well worth had, and hopefully a lot of people got a lot out of it. Viva la libertad and afuera.
Okay, in English it will be fear
Over
and
and out.
tremble. Fear and tremble, haters. Fear and tremble, haters,
Fear and
because
tremble,
freedom
haters.
moves forward.
There you go.
Yes.
Thanks, everybody.